this Innovation and Commercialization Working Group is co-chaired by Lawrence, who may be online. I don't see him. He should be online. And myself, I will be stepping down at the end of this year, and Robert here is going to take over all the work, and I'm very happy to give all the work to him, right? Is here, right, good. We are going to start first with, I don't know, the INC mandate. You want to present that? So this is our supporting group. Basically, Caitlin is in charge of doing a lot of stuff for us. So she's the Sophie that we had before, right, basically.
That's very generous. Thank you, Françoise. I'll actually let you present the mandate after I just give a quick introduction from the point of view of INRIA. So yes, thank you, Françoise. I'm Caitlin Beauvais, and I'm the project lead for innovation and commercialization at INRIA. And where I've been working with Françoise and Lawrence for now 3 years, which is really crazy to say. I had the opportunity of meeting Lawrence, who should be connected online in Montreal this September at the Innovation Workshop. And I just wanted to say thank you again to Françoise, who has been part of GPAI since even before GPAI was created. So thank you again, Françoise, for all of your hard work these past 3 years. Oh, perfect. For all of your hard work these past 3 years. We really appreciate it. So yeah, as I said before, I'm a project manager at the Paris Center of Paris Expert Support Center, where I work with these hardworking experts for the Innovation and Commercialization Working Group. I'm really excited to hear about the projects specifically because this working group is a bit special, not only because of the quality of experts, but also because it's the only working group that really focuses on hard outputs, creating tools for the industry. So thank you again for giving me the time, Françoise, and I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you. So on the screen, can we get the screen back with the people attending, please? Okay, so we have Lawrence Liu here. This is my dear co-chair, chairing all the work with me. And he has his team with him. This is Betty at the right, in charge of all the technical details, I would say. And Quanchet also was there and is not there anymore. We also had before Jan Dietrich was working with Lee, so these are the people connected from far away. Thank you. So Lawrence and Betty, you're ready to answer all the questions, right? And thank you, Jan. Glad to see you here. So basically, coming to the slide back, if you can, yes. So our mandate is very simple. It's innovation and commercialization. What else can we say, right? So obviously what our business is about is extremely simple. We want to do anything we can so that we can help companies to do better, to do innovation faster, quicker, in a better way, and to succeed in commercializing their innovation in AI. To do that, we've decided from the very beginning that what we wanted was to make not reports, not papers, not documents, but tools that the company can actually use and profit from. So our target usually has been to try and build tools that companies can exploit as much as possible. So it's about companies, it's about products, it's about processes, and it's about industry with a large focus on companies which are SMEs. And as you know, we have GPAI members here. Out of when I started, I think it was not even 15, right? 15 at the beginning. Now we have 29 members. And of these members, 22 are represented in the Innovation and Commercialization group. So we have a lot of experts from many areas, basically, and representative from OECD, representative from UNESCO, and a lot of also outside expert, junior investigators, people, observers, who join our group and contribute their work, again, pro bono, as you know, the fashion is in GPAI. We work for nothing, basically. The Innovation and Commercialization group has basically started projects progressively. At the present time, we have 4 of them. The first one, what we started, was the broad adoption of AI by SME that Lawrence is going to present. This is our oldest project, most complete, it's basically almost completed. It's in the process of being deployed, and we'll present that. We decided to verticalize, so to speak, this project and apply it to agro and farming, and Inma is going to present that. We also have addressed the question, which is a little problem for companies. When a company produces a new idea, a new product, usually it involves a lot of IP, a lot of trade secret, if you want, maybe copyright. And all of this, of course, is a very important asset for the company. The problem is that AI assets, property, are not very well defined, and we have this project on protecting this asset from a while ago, and now Lee will talk about that, maybe with Jan as well. The last one is the last one, actually, because it's very recent. Only a year ago, I think we started with Andreas at the end here. And the idea is, everywhere in the world we have regulation of AI, and we want to basically understand all this regulation and help companies navigate through these different regulations. So this will be presented later by Andreas. So we have a problem here that the sound is not there. So I don't hear the sound. Nobody hears the sound. And also they need to rewind. Yeah, I have. Yeah, you have to. I have. But it's we will.
20th century word.
Lawrence, stop because you might have to talk on this because it doesn't work. Can you do that, Lawrence?
Yes, sure.
Yeah. So I'm moving on because if we try to fix the problem, it won't do. So go ahead, Lawrence, for you.
Welcome everyone to the broad adoption of AI by SMEs presentation. Firstly, let me apologize for not being able to be in person in Delhi with you today. In this presentation, besides myself, I have my co-chair Ingo Hoffman, who will be sharing what we have been doing for the last 1 year.
A warm welcome also from my side. Unfortunately, I can't be with you in Delhi in person today. Let me introduce the agenda for this session. I will go through a little bit of the background of our work over the last few years. And then my colleague Lawrence Liu will take you through the portal, demonstrate what we have developed, the showcases that we already have, and discuss why we think it would be a good idea for you to join the initiative. But first, let me give you a short background and introduction. When we started the work, it became very clear that the adoption of AI by SMEs was a challenge for almost all countries participating. The majority of the economy in many countries is based on the small and mid-sized enterprises. But they often lack the resources, the skills, the data, or the IT infrastructure to adopt AI solutions and with that benefit from AI. So how can we help them to become more AI aware and to find the right solutions and partners to adopt AI? That was the question that we asked ourselves, and we wanted not only to produce reports but to have a real solution helping to address these challenges. And that's why we have implemented our recommendations as a portal that we will demonstrate to you today.
Now, let's talk about the achievement that the group has done for the last 1 year.
Lawrence, we don't hear you, so please talk.
In 2023,
Can
we
you
launched the
talk
portal,
about it? Because we
with
don't.
Singapore and Poland being the first to go live with the portal. France,
It's fine now.
Germany,
It's fine
and
now.
Serbia are expected to go live by end of this year or early of next year.
No, he doesn't.
We have also set up an AI for SME forum, a place where the portal operators and the developers can come together to share the code and the best practices. So let's recap. The objective of the portal is to help SMEs accelerate the adoption of AI. This portal is an actualization of the recommendations that the group has put up. We want SMEs to... Now, let's...
Thank you for your patience.
So let's recap. The objective...
I can walk through the presentation. You just turn off the sound.
Yeah, I think it's better if you talk because it doesn't work. But the demo, we need the demo, right?
In
The demo should be
2023,
fine, yeah.
we launched the
Go.
portal,
He's
with
talking.
Singapore and Poland being the first to go live with the portal.
Build up the
France,
sound. We
Germany,
don't hear
and
you.
Serbia are expected to
Yeah.
go live by end of this year or early of next year. We have also set up an AI for SME forum, a place
Because
where
I
the
can
portal
hear the sound
operators and the
perfectly fine here.
developers can come together to share the code and the best practices. So let's recap. The objective of the portal is to help SMEs accelerate the adoption of AI. This portal is an actualization of the recommendations that the group has put up. We want SMEs to adopt curated AI solutions from validated AI solution providers. And for solution providers to offer their AI solutions to the SMEs and obviously expand their customer base. This portal will be supported by a GPAI member country portal operator. They will manage the portal and onboard these AI solution providers and also market this portal to the SMEs. Now, let's have a quick look at the portal and its features. Now let's look at some of the examples of the portal implemented. This is the portal over in Poland, and they have used the URL AI for msp.pl. They have more or less retained the same look and feel. And this is the page that shows the various solution providers that Poland has when SME were to search for them. Now, let's take a look at the Singapore side. Obviously, the color is different. It's a 2-column layout. And we have integrated it into our community page where we have resources about AI, articles, and even a forum where it's a fairly active discussions going on all issues about AI, and even a job portal. So as you can see, the portal is easily customizable. It's based on WordPress. So the portal operator only needs to make sure that he has the WordPress developer to integrate the portal, whether into a new site or existing site. Now, why join the AI for SME portal initiative? One, we want to encourage innovations. As we have already mentioned, SMEs makes up a significant portion of the economy. We want to make sure that SMEs are provided access to AI expertise and solutions, curated solution providers. And this portal can help SMEs to become more innovative. Increase efficiency. AI has the potential to improve efficiency across industries. And by encouraging SMEs to adopt AI, SMEs can streamline their current business processes. Finally, this portal will be a means to help SME and solution providers come together, enjoy faster collaboration, promoting partnerships, and hopefully leading to new innovations and business opportunities. And for next year, 2024, we hope to get more countries to build their own AI for SME portals. The group will also create new go-to-market resources and guides for portal operators to better help them engage the SMEs and new AI solution providers. The group will also come together and create a new resource, AI for SME, a simplified introduction to AI for SMEs, based on AI Singapore's AI for Everyone. Focus on helping SMEs understand AI and how to bring AI into its organizations, and including getting their organizations ready for AI, based on the principles of the AI Maturity Index that we have put into the portal. So, the next step is for GPAI member countries and the appointed portal operators to visit the AI for SME community portal at aiforSMEportal.org. Over here, you can apply for access to the AI for SME portal, and once access has been given, you can download the portal source code, download the portal administrator guides, the developer guides, and any other guides that the group will put up from time to time. With this, we end our presentation, and I look forward to everyone here joining the community to help the SME accelerate their adoption of AI. Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence. Thank you. So basically, we see here that there has been a field test in 4 countries already a year ago, and now we have a portal deployed in 2 countries. One is Poland and one is Singapore, where Lawrence is. The next one, hopefully, is going to be France with our French representative here. So any country wanting to join this portal can just connect, and then you download the entire stuff and you put it into your own framework, brand, colors, whatever, and language, right? In French, it's going to be in French, of course. So all of the thing is free, you get it free, and then you run it on your own site. Thank you, Lawrence. If you can stay, because there might be questions at the end, probably for you or Betty or Quanchet. Okay, thank you. So now we had this SME portal ready to go to join, to match basically SMEs with service provider in AI. So we decided to run the exactly same and use it, but verticalize it on one domain, which is the agro and farming, and this is going to be presented by Inma. in my use this one.
The mic's here.
Can we put the slides back, please?
I don't know that.
Oh, I can see. I know now. Ooh. Okay. So when I joined the Information and Commercialization, Innovation and Commercialization Working Group, I soon realized that there are sectors that will require to have their own portals, their own environment. I have worked as an AI scientist in many sectors, automotive, aerospace, but my family has vineyards in Spain. I have worked in cow farms in Ireland doing AI, and I felt that GPAI should lead a project for agriculture and farming. And I did it because fundamentally it's not about feeding people. It's not about in 2050 we have 10 billion people to feed. It's about really acknowledging that climate change and very poor quality agricultural practices are reducing arable land year on year. And also, I can speak without notes. And we need to help the farming community yield more from less land, and also be more sustainable with biological approaches to agriculture. So we now can confirm that many of our members are very, very keen to put agriculture in their artificial intelligence roadmaps and agendas. I'm very proud to say that India, our presidency, has put agriculture at the top of one of the things that they want to achieve with artificial intelligence. And so many other countries like France, like Mexico, like Brazil. So this portal will grow in terms of outreach. And I will run you through what the portal currently hosts, what kind of content can you find, and basically not just finding AI companies that work in agriculture, but it's an educational portal. We want to educate the world. So we know that there is a sustainable agenda for the world. Agriculture has a climate change affecting its dynamics, but agriculture is an industry, is the GDP of nations, and we need to make it more optimized, which is the superpower of artificial intelligence. So we want to educate the public. We want this portal to be accessible by scholars, people that want to understand the industry, as well as having an ecosystem of technical directors in an agricultural field, being able to consult it and find AI solutions that they want to explore. And vice versa, we want young startups and other companies that focus on agriculture building AI and solutions to be able to show and even put demos of their products. So we have built the portal and the databases with the help of University of Loyola in Andalusia, which is the University of Chicago in Spain. We have built, let me see if it's here, we have built the databases of the case studies and the AI solutions providers from the Americas, from Europe, and now we're building, in addition to Japan, all of the Asia-Pacific companies and case studies. We believe that case studies explain how AI is really being used. There is a misconception that when you bring artificial intelligence to an artisanal industry, the jobs will go away. And actually, it's not the case. Farmers have very hard lives trying to yield product from the land. And when technology and AI comes in, they are in possession of information that helps them make better decisions. And for example, I'll give you an example. When someone decides to grow grain, well, that grain has to achieve a specific percentage of protein if you want to sell the grain for human consumption. If you don't achieve that quality, then the grain has to be given for feeding animals. and you don't get any money for it. Basically, you work for free the whole year. So we need to increase the value. When I say yield, it's not so much the quantity that you get from the land, but the quality of the product. So we need to feed people with nutritional values. So we have now begun the roadmap of integrating our work with FAO, with organizations at national level that also have innovation centers or labs that focus on agriculture. I'm hoping that we will be able to establish these relationships here in India and in other countries. My targets right now are France, Spain, Holland, where we have the most strong cases of AI in Europe, and then build India and Australia in 2024 as well. So, whoops. So just to invite you to collaborate with us, information in portals is something that shouldn't be static. We hope that the portal is interactive. It has videos, it has tools, you can see demos, and it's really a portal that we see growing and expanding. Initially, will be launched in English. I'm hoping that we can get it into national levels and then be in the local languages. And if you work in agro and AI, come to me after the presentations.
Thank you, Inma. To be launched in first quarter of 2024, right?
That's the beta.
Yep. Wait for it.
Not for the people. That's the beta.
Wait for it. Thank you. So what you saw so far basically was what you were talking about in the previous talk, what we call the plumbing, right? Exactly that. We do plumbing work, we propose tools to be used. The next one is going to be presented by Lee Diedrich here. So she's going to Jan is online. They are the two co-leads of the IP project.
Hi, everybody. So I'm going to talk a bit about our project that we started a couple years ago on unlocking responsible AI data and model sharing. We started this project a couple years ago in the IP committee, and initially I was co-leading the work with Josef Drexel, who from the Max Planck Institute. And, Jan is my co-lead on the committee, and he's been getting involved as we've been launching the 2024 plans. So I thought what I would do is kind of walk you through what we've done over the past couple of years. I mean, the premise of the report is bringing it back to innovation and commercialization. We want to incentivize and we want to facilitate innovation and commercialization. But in order to do that with artificial intelligence, we need access to data, we need access to models. And one of the things that we've observed, Jan has a lot of industry experience. I was actually in private practice in law for 30 years before joining Duke relatively recently, is that parties want to share data and they want to share models, but it's really challenging to do so. So the whole premise of our project is how can we unlock those opportunities safely to create incentives for innovation, to create AI models that have access to data that can help eliminate bias, help address safety concerns, but do this in a way that is responsible. We need to protect privacy when it comes to the data. We need to protect proprietary rights. When we come to large language models and open source, which is now a big part of our work as well, we want to make sure that those tools are available for innovators, but we need to address the safety concerns. So that was the premise of our project. And we started in 2022 with, again, being the Innovation and Commercialization Working Group, is we really want to understand what the market needs are. So we did this preliminary study that was, had some book research, but what was more important to us was to go out to the community, to different stakeholders, and try to find out, are there needs? Do they think standard contract terms can work? So I'll walk you through that study. Then in 2023, we built upon that preliminary report and actually did 2 hybrid workshops, one at Max Planck Institute in Munich, one in Duke in Washington, D.C., where we brought stakeholders together to really try to move this forward. And then I'll turn it over to Jan to talk about what we're going to do in 2024. So again, the premise of the work is that parties actually want to share data, they want to share models responsibly, but find it challenging to do so. And the whole premise is maybe through standard contract terms, we can develop mechanisms to facilitate this. So in our 2022 report, it really kind of confirmed that basic premise, and we identified what some of the challenges were to the data sharing and the model sharing, and some of them are technical challenges, and we know our colleagues in the data governance group are working on this, that we don't have standardized data formats. So if two parties want to exchange data, it's very hard to do so and make it usable without the standard formats, without the standard APIs. Another big issue we found are just the legal challenges. How do we protect rights to the data when we share the data? And the legal issues cut across a lot of different sectors. We have intellectual property issues, we have competition law issues, we have privacy issues, and the legal uncertainties vary across different jurisdictions, which make it even more complicated than trying to figure it out in one jurisdiction. Then there's also the business uncertainties that, parties are struggling on how do we come up with valuations of the data. What the data holder may think the data is worth a lot more than the data recipient. So how do we come up with tools that can help parties evaluate the value of the data and reach efficient transactions? And then last but certainly not least is we have to be conscious of the data justice concerns, that we don't want to create markets where certain people are being disadvantaged or their data is being exploited. So then, kind of taking that report that there were all of these challenges, and let me back up a second. In terms of finding solutions, what we found in the preliminary report is that even though there is this great need for data agreements, the actual development of those agreements are pretty nascent. We don't have Creative Commons like agreements for data sharing. And we also found that the multi-stakeholder participation is important, because if we want to come up with licensing models that are fair, that are going to be broadly adopted, we need to bring a lot of people into the mixture to help us develop them. It also became clear through our work that there is no one-size-fits-all approach, that there are a lot of different types of transactions. So really the goal is to come up with a menu of terms, the fair terms that parties can choose to adopt for their particular situation. And then we identified like a whole host of issues that need to be addressed through licensing terms, the rights allocations, because the laws are unclear as to who owns the outputs. How do we use privacy-enhancing technologies in connection with the AI, the ethical consideration. So then we built upon this in 2023 with our 2 hybrid workshops, and kind of we view GPAI as being the facilitator here. GPAI doesn't really have the resources to develop the licensing terms, but the whole concept is let's bring the community together and create a forum where people can share ideas and try to advance the development of these contract terms. And in our 2 workshops, we really were overwhelmed by the broad participation that we had. People from all around the world came, some in person, some virtually, to participate. We got viewpoints from civil society, government, industry, academia. We've built up good collaborations with other multilateral organizations. The World Intellectual Property Organization, OECD have been very involved, the World Bank. And we also thought, because data sharing is inherently a multidisciplinary field, that we had to bring together all the different types of experts. So we had legal, policy experts, lawyers, engineers. The other thing we did throughout the course of the year was, we went through this revolution with generative AI, and we really tried to tailor our work to address some of the concerns with generative AI. One of the big concerns of G7 members is intellectual property rights, privacy threats. How can contracts help address some of those concerns with respect to generative AI and leverage the business code of conduct? So, this slide, I won't go into too much detail, highlights some of the things that we discussed in the workshop, using contractual terms, updating the landscape, really drilling down on how we can develop the contract terms to address the legal uncertainty, looking at where the law is going with the EU Data Act in particular, where the Commission has said we want to see fair, reasonable terms. How can this effort support the development of those terms? One key takeaway is that we really need common contractual definitions. When you have different parties negotiating and they don't understand that the language, we need to come up with those terms. We also really delved into the data scraping issues. I mean, right now we're in this untenable situation with data scraping. Everybody's doing it to feed the large language models. Lawsuits, investigations are mounting around the globe, and how can standard contract terms in combination with technical tools, business codes of conduct, try to come up with fair, more reasonable solutions. And that was also another big theme of our work. Some of the takeaways are that I haven't already covered, that there also are big applications here with respect to open source. One of the things that came up with our work is that people are talking about open source, open access with respect to AI models, but the current open source agreements don't really address some of the unique aspects of AI models in terms of disclosing weight. So that's like a whole nother area with respect to standard contract terms. And I think one of the key takeaways from the work is that, this need for the multi-stakeholder collaboration is really key. We invited people to come in with their standard contract terms and give feedback. So the plan for 2024 is to launch our AI contract terms incubator and build on the community that we've already established and create more regular opportunities through virtual sessions, and hopefully if we can get the funding, get some, have some hybrid sessions to bring the community together. And then here are some of the topics of interest that we're focused on, is the open source LLM agreements, the data scraping, and then how we can leverage these contract terms for public procurement. And Yan, you've been doing some of the organizational work around open source. Do you want to maybe share some of the thoughts on what we're planning for first quarter next year?
Yeah, thank you, and hello everybody, and apologies to not be in India. Yeah, on open source, so what we are trying to bring, and again, this is the spirit of the incubator, is to bring different people working and addressing this issue, not necessarily trying to, do a one-size-fits-all kind of solution, but bringing all the various people from Creative Commons, people from the open source initiatives, from Linux Foundation, from other places, to share some of the issue and challenge that we are facing here. We obviously have many large issue about what is copyrightable and how this license will work out. There is a new type of restriction. We are starting to see people are concerned about ethical restriction. Or do you fit that into the agreement, or do you enforce that? All these kind of things are very important. And again, rather than to build a new initiatives, what we are trying to be is a place for all the initiatives to share and progress together.
Yeah, so if anybody's interested in joining our incubator, Caitlin is organizing us, and reach out. And I think that, the first objective with the incubator around open source is people are talking about open source, but a lot of people don't understand what it is. And open source is, there's a lot of different flavors and varieties of open source software. So we want to just kind of level set. We want to educate the community. We want to talk about how AI models are different from typical open source software. And that will inform, like, what type of licensing terms do we need, and hopefully by bringing this community together, we will inspire people to create licensing terms. So that is it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dick. Our next presentation, if I can get it. Yeah. My next one is going to be about regulation. Andreas Libor and Sergio was unfortunately not here.
Yes, so hello from my side. I talk a little bit about that topic of regulation, and as we are the Innovation and Commercialization Working Group, the question is now, how can we combine that? So the issue is, how can we boost the innovation while on the other side we also regulate? Because we support that there are some regulations and regulatory efforts, but the main question is, okay, how can we still maintain that innovativeness? And if you look at what's happening there, it starts actually at very fundamental differences in how countries approach the regulation. And on the one side, you have the more horizontal one, like in the European Union, which applies to all AI applications, and a kind of a central government body that governs and enforces the regulation, and it's additional to the sector-specific regulation. As I heard, it's also, at least in some parts now in India, being discussed to have that more horizontal regulation. Then on the vertical one, you have, for example, the US or the UK, where you go and talk about very specific industries or applications of AI that are then being regulated, and that's with sector-specific authorities that enforce the policies. And then on the third one, you have the non-binding ones that, well, standards are broadly defined, and they are not enforced, and adoption is voluntary. That's, for example, in Japan, in Singapore, and Israel, where you have these more non-binding guidelines. And with that comes a couple of challenges. And one is that we not only have these different regulatory approaches, but we have different definitions of AI. So in some regulations, your use cases will fall under the regulation, and in others not. Then on the next level, we have the different applicability of regulation for the specific use case. In the EU, for example, it depends on if it's a high-risk case or not. So it really is then on the use case also within the regulation, the question of what types of regulatory requirements are applicable to your use case. And then you have different requirements that you need to comply with. So you have these three layers of complexity when you talk about regulation. And as we are the global partnership on AI, the main question now is, if you are a company that wants to sell your product not only within your own country, but around the world, how can you comply with the regulations also in the other countries? And what's the translation that you need as a company to comply when you start with your own one to then comply to another one in another region in the world? So, and if we did that survey just looking at Europe and at the European SMEs and asked them, what is it, what's the difficulty that you find in complying with different aspects of the AI Act? And as you can see, in data and data governance, it's more than 50% that it's either very hard or hard to comply with that regulation. In risk management, similarly, in accuracy, robustness, and cybersecurity, transparency, and then it gets a little bit less in record keeping, human oversight, and technical documentation, but still also in them there's a majority, like a significant proportion of companies that have difficulties in that. And again, that is for the own regulation in the own countries. We're not talking about the regulation in other parts of the world. So why is it? Because there are no existing processes or practices of how you then comply with the standards. There are no existing tools for compliance to the regulatory requirements. And that also means that there is no globally approachable platform where you can look, first of all, what the differences are in terms of the concrete requirements to the companies for the different regulations in the world. And then there is not that translation from one regulation to the other. And that is what we wanted to approach with our working group. So we aim to support the companies around the world with the regulatory compliance to these different parts of the regulation. And the first thing that we do and that we did is to map the different regulations around the world. And that is what we did in the last year, or in this year, in 2023, which is still ongoing as the regulations are also still developing. So we need to adjust that constantly, but the question is how you create that ontology already. Then the question, is there any existing support mechanisms? Are there institutions that provide benchmarks, that provide already tools, that provide overviews of these platforms? So let's connect these support mechanisms for organizations. Then it's the question of, can we co-develop something where I say, is it something where we can do support, or where we can support that translation from one regulation into the other? Can we support in terms of the process descriptions, in terms of the tools that are available, and most importantly also on the upskilling, because there are no, the engineers have no understanding of how to then comply, especially with regulations outside their own countries. And then lastly, what we also want to do is to give feedback to the governments about the required support, what works well in one country or the other, so that you can build up that support ecosystem for the industry to then ultimately comply with regulations, and that is through KPIs, but also through regulatory learning. So what we did, as said, we had the first comparison of the regulations around the world. We now create also a survey for the affected stakeholders, asking the companies what's specifically difficult, not only what we did in Europe, but also around the world. How can we actually support them? That is what we then want to conduct in next year, and here. If you know of any companies who would like to participate, that's for us very important and valuable feedback, so that we can then build exactly what the companies also need globally. The next one is we select the relevant fields for compliance. So let's start with one requirement after the other and do the deep dives to, again, as François said, to create these very concrete support systems and tools for the companies. That is kind of our task in our working group. Then to identify these support mechanisms around the world that are also now being built up, as for example in Europe we now built this ecosystem of support for the companies to then comply with the AI Act. I assume there will be these similar approaches around the world to comply with the own regulations, so that we can have that then global translation. And then build that library of existing approaches of activities and resources. So that is what we are focusing on in the next year, to have a first set of support mechanisms for the companies to then comply with global regulation. So that's a very quick overview about what we are planning there. As said, that year 2023 was rather that preparation, as the regulation is just being developed. But now, as the first regulations are more or less fixed, we now can start really to develop and to build up that libraries that we want to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Andreas. So that should be the end of our presentation today. Maybe my co-chair, Lawrence, you would like to give us a few words about the work you had as co-chair during the time?
Yeah, thanks, François. Hi, everyone. Yeah, sorry I'm not able to be in India. The first year I started in GPAI as the co-chair of the SME group, and second year onwards I became the co-chair of the Innovation and Commercialization Working Group. So this really has been a eye-opening undertaking. Lots of interesting discussions and getting to know a more global view of AI and what's been happening in the world. From a Singapore perspective, my work in AI Singapore is very focused on industry. And obviously the last couple of months, a lot of talk on generative AI, regulation, and all have come into play. And the work that we are doing here in GPAI is very, very relevant to the work that I'm doing in Singapore. So that's a very easy way for me to justify me spending a lot of time working on GPAI and involving my team members and helping to build the AI for SME portal and even contributing some of our IPs into the portal, like the AI Mind, and moving forward our AI resources, AI learning resources. So I'm very happy to be part of GPAI. And I hope that I have another year as co-chair of this group, and I look forward to working with everyone.
Thank you, Lawrence, very much. And as a personal goodbye message to Lawrence, I must say it's been very nice to work with you. And I would like to emphasize the specific role that Lawrence has played. Obviously, Singapore has a lot of development, a lot of activities, and they very freely and nicely shared their work and their expertise with our projects. And I think this is the strength also of our groups, that people bring to the table their expertise, their tool, their everything, and their work, of course. And this is how we can progress together. We have a saying in French that alone you go far, but together it's faster. So this is the end for me. So now I'm going to pass the baton to Robert, my next co-chair. If you want to say a few words, Robert, and then we'll take questions.
Thank you very much. First of all, Lawrence and Francois, from my side, very thank you for leading our group since 3 years. And for audiences, very important information. When I joined to that group 1 year after of first outputs and results, I found that group as a very practical team who try to define and transverse the concept of trustworthy artificial intelligence to very practical tools. And we see from the results who presented today that tools, the portal AI for SMEs, what Poland adopted as another country, second country after the Singapore. That portal could enable Polish community to be visible for each other from the perspective of suppliers and SMEs. And then that project about artificial intelligence has had its premiere driven first by Japan. That we had a first overview among the many jurisdictions and find first differences between the jurisdictions. That base enabled for us to develop the project IP committee dedicated to the sharing of data and the models, and finally to understand how we can deal and boost innovation. Maybe now we can support the boosting innovation while regulation better could be by regulation. That was the first approach, and finally, maybe thanks to our work and the domain of agro, we can dive in the very precise, very concrete needs in the local markets. That could be maybe a solution finally to interact interlocally versus global challenges. Maybe it's the future approach for us. And coming back to our title, Innovation and Commercialization, hearing today's panel, I had thought that maybe we need a digital mirror inside of governments to talk on the interoperable language, yes, very practical, and has an impact. And what I can, from my side, for this thinking about a bit future, I'm super happy that our group participate in the work in other groups, working groups, when we can think about the joint projects, transversal projects. I'm really happy to have a collaboration. And why? Because we, as a GPAI, has a mandate to have an answer in the context of artificial intelligence, not only to the technical things. Thank you very much. And
thank you.
One more time, Francois. We have a good journey together, but I'm crying.
Thank you. So before we take questions, I have 2 items here. Number 1 is I would like to thank her here. She's been very supportive. Basically, we are people who have no time, right? We cannot work, we don't answer email, we don't answer phone, and still she can make it, right? So thank you a lot.
Thank you. Thank you, Françoise.
The second thing maybe I would like to talk about, you've seen 4 projects here, and the question you might ask yourselves is, how do you come up with projects? How do we decide which projects are good? So far, we basically have one driver, basically, which was what could be helpful to companies. But there might be other ideas, and we welcome all your ideas about that, right? So tell us what we should do next to help companies, and we'll try and fit it in our program. Now, question, please. You can move some mic in the room. This lady first. Ladies
Hi.
first.
Hello. Okay. I am on the advisory council of GovStack, which is the UN initiative for digital building blocks. We are actually looking at GovStack and digital public infrastructure. I think that there's a really important collaboration that's needed with the Digital Public Goods Alliance within the UN, as well as the GovStack Alliance, so that we can actually tie all of these efforts. Everybody's struggling with the AI regulation. I'm also co-chair for digital regulation for the UN Science Summit next year, 2024. I want all of you involved in that. We need to pull all of these efforts together. Thank you.
With most pleasure. Come to us, please. Yes, thank you. Yes, you have a mic? Yeah.
Fair enough.
This person was second. Excuse me. Yes.
Maybe. Hi, nice discussion and the presentation of the project. So I am from the Indian School of Business, and out of the faculty and researcher there, out of the 3 areas that I work on, one of them is innovation commercialization. I primarily work with a lot of AI startups, basically talking to them about the initial first 3 to 5 years of their journey. After they have developed the tech, how do they commercialize that? I've started with healthcare as a sector. We are working with few AI startups in healthcare in India, and then maybe over next year, maybe in the second half of next year, we'll, depending on what findings we get, we will also take it to fintech and Indian language. Yes, that's the other broad areas. Agriculture is a big domain, so I don't want to go there yet because the dynamics are very different. So I saw these initiatives that you have are more of a marketplace initiative. Is that correct in interpreting? Because Lawrence showed one for the SMEs,
Yeah.
you showed one on agriculture. They will help solve the discoverability aspect. But what I see a lot of challenges, because I'm working with these companies for about 6 months to a year to understand their processes, is that once they have developed their innovation, how do they market it? How do they find people and the markets who are ready to pay for it? Open source is often not an option because they're working on very small funds. And one of the things that we see, where do they get the pivots? Pivot means change the direction. Maybe someone started with healthcare, they had to see that the same technology is more helpful, maybe say instead of cancer in TB or some other areas. So those pivots are very important. The marketing is very important. How do you reach out to regulations? Because the 2 companies that we are working with now, and some of them have stalls in the big exhibitor also, reaching out to foreign countries because healthcare has a lot of regulations. How do they mitigate the regulatory challenges are very helpful. I don't know how much of the problem that we are trying to tackle will a platform solve, because discoverability is definitely discoverability is definitely one of the first aspect, but I think after that all the other aspects are quite important. I think we can take one more problem.
Okay, so healthcare in particular is heavily regulated, as you said, and if you work on the hardware side, like in the devices side, it's even worse. And right now, if you look at the inefficiencies of healthcare for governments, which is where we focus, we have the top picture, is the patient experience, basically patient data, how we digitize hospitals. It's not so much about solutions for the radiologist or the surgery, but really the overall, we have a population that needs healthcare, and we need to start datifying so that we know what particular diseases affect our population, how are we dealing with them. So any startup working in healthcare, if they were to focus on solving the optimization side of the patient administration and the patient handling. That's an area that governments are very receptive to fund, and the hospitals themselves. If you start from the bottom up, which is like the particular solutions for diseases or for specific departments in the hospital, that is harder. I have worked in image diagnosis for many years at Imperial College and in cardiology projects, etc. And I know now the both sides. And in particular in the UK, the biggest pain right now is the top-down. Our hospital administration, digitizing absolutely everything there. And those are the opportunity areas for healthcare and AI.
No, I think very, very well taken. I think just quickly to add one point. So the startups that we are working with are not really early stage. They have been 5 to 7 years in there, and they are profitable and successful now. And what we are documenting is the early first 3 years, and what are the challenges that they faced in the first 3 years, so we can learn from them and help other startups in the ecosystem.
Maybe you were asking about what
this forum can do.
What can bring to you practically, because this is what we're interested in. What is practical?
Yes,
right?
maybe I can share my learnings.
Obviously, we cannot
with
solve everything, right? There will be a lot of needs which are not covered. The first thing we want to do is very simple. Actually, is we want to put SMEs who don't know about AI in contact with companies like your company that you're advising, to help them progress and go faster. This is the first level that we are dealing with in the SME platform. The second thing that we're going to try, and this is what the people with Lawrence, Betty and Quanchet have been doing. They've been bringing the tool, which is this matching tool, which is step one. If you don't get this step one, nothing happens, because the SME cannot do it alone. And they would need a lot of help to do it alone. The second thing that we're going to do next year with what Lawrence started to present is basically we realize that SME, after they do this first stage, they need to learn, they need to train. And they cannot go out and get a master. This is not what they need. They need easy training sessions, and we're going to try to put up a program like that. And as you see, it means that the platform that we have is the starting point, is not the end point. So first matching, second training, third, you tell me, job fairs, linked to VCs, whatever you wish. So it's a platform which must go and will go with time. At this stage, it is what it is.
Great, right? I'll be happy to engage with your this group later on. Thank you.
Very welcome. Yeah. Yeah, this person here. Yeah, you had it. You wanted it. So go ahead.
Okay, fine. Okay. So the first thing is, though I was unable to hear Inma's session, the other 3 sessions I did hear, they were really good. Considering the fact you said they are all pro bono jobs, this is really commendable jobs. Man, that's something that I would like to say first. The second thing, that the question is, Lawrence, when you showed those solution providers, right, in the AI that SME portal, how do you verify those? Is there a verification mechanism?
Yes. Good question.
Okay.
Yes. Lawrence, go ahead. Present SPMI.
Yes. So the solution provider, before they are onboarded into the portal, they have to complete a registration process, including completing what we call a solution provider maturity index, SPMI, which was contributed by France, and that's a very expensive set of questionnaire. But we also take the stance that in terms of governance of this, we leave it to the each country member country to decide what is the type of governance they want. We recommend a few, but it's up to the country to decide. But the SPMI should be a minimum. You could even go to the extent of having a formal audit and so on of the company. Now, following that, the company will then upload the use cases. After they've been approved, the company will upload the use cases. It is up to the portal operator to, and that's a setting that can be done within the portal, for the portal operator to actually review and approve each of the use case, or if the portal operator say, well, these companies I have already validated, I will assume that these use cases are okay, and therefore, I'm not going to review each of the use cases uploaded. So that flexibility is given to the portal operator.
So when you say portal operator or a country, who in that country does this? Means is this the government? Is it a private entity?
Let me give you a very concrete example, right? We have here the French representative here, Guillaume, right? We want to ask a question after that. So for my institution, not for GPAI, for my institution, Up France AI, I want to be able to use this portal because I'm running a project which basically put in contact SMEs with service provider. I'm doing that by hand today. It's a pain in the neck to do it, right? So I apply to Guillaume as the French representative to give me the right to become portal operator for this thing for my project. He reviews that, he passes that through strategic committee and all the nonsense that they have, right? And then at the end of the day, he says yes or no. When he says yes, then I go to Singapore, who has the technical thing. They send that to me, and with the support, most probably of Betty. Sorry, Betty, we will going to bug you a lot. They help me to basically take the tool, translate that to French. We already did that a year ago, but probably need more. Translate that to French, brand it, put our colors, put our logo, put everything. So it's really a process by which the country representative is in charge of making sure that he gives the key, so to speak, to a portal operator which is obeying the principle which are listed in a governance document that we've written. So there is a governance document which says what are the rights and things that you need to do as a portal operator. Not everybody can do it.
Francois, maybe.
Can I? Oh, sorry.
Maybe 1 minute, 30 seconds from Polish case study. We have some success story, and that was a different approach. Probably, maybe because that coincidence that me is an expert, in the same moment the governmental representative, my person recommended inside to my government, please, we need to operate that portal. We get it, the technical features from the Lawrence and the Betty. And we have one person who is administrator of that portal, and that portal belongs to the Ministry of Digital Affairs. And because of that, we have a horizontal view and a very practical tool dedicated to our enterprises from one side and second side. This is like that.
Yeah, that's a very important point. Number one, Robert is in a very interesting position. I've not been appointed by the French government. Too bad, right? So I go for the French government. But in his case, what is very interesting is that they're pushing for a solution which is global at the level of their country, whereas in France, the decision is so far more like different portal operator. So what I mean to say by that is that we've tried to build a tool which is extremely flexible, and it's for each country to decide how they want to use it, how they want to deploy it. It's your decision. Of course, having a solution like the global one in Poland is nice, because then the government has a global view of its SMEs and startups. That's beautiful, right?
So when you say the government representative, you mean that all 22, 27, whatever countries of GPAI has, 29 countries have a single representative in GPAI.
We have a member state representative, okay, yes, of course.
Okay. Yes. Fair enough. And he decides everything on this, how it happens. Fair enough.
In the agro project, because our clients are in the fields on a tractor, not filling out forms, we've done it in reverse. If we go to the farmers and we actually, or the agricultural associations, and they tell us which farmers are using tech, and then we ask them, what are you using? Then we go and check the company ourselves. And it's very easy. If you're really selling tech, you have a YouTube channel where you show what the robots are doing or what the tech is doing. The good companies that really sell stuff have YouTube channels. So for me, check box. Does their website has support? That means they have clients. I've been an entrepreneur and I know how you can look very big on a website and do nothing, or when you are for real. And then ultimately we contact the actual solution providers. Also, we have built relationships with agricultural associations, which I am hoping they will be the portal operators in the future.
Again, very flexible model, and each country does the way they feel it's best. Guillaume, you had the mic, you don't want to use it?
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot for your work. I have different questions, in fact. First one is, I'm not sure I got the business model of the platform, or at least how are we going to make sure that the initiative is sustainable and continue the maintenance, the development of the platform and so on. That's the first question. Second question is, does it make any sense to, I understand that for the moment it's on a voluntary basis, the fact that an SME or a solution provider is using the platform, but does it make sense, for example, I will speak for France, we have fundings for within the national strategy for AI, and we could ask as mandatory the companies that are receiving public money for their development to register on the platform, for example.
Thank you, do that.
Okay. Then it's more like a remark. I don't know if there is already a feedback process on the platform in order to provide, if there is something that is not perfect in the requirement, in the way the platform is working and so on. That would be nice to have these kind of features in order to improve the platform. Yeah. Okay, that's my question regarding the platform. Then I had the question also for you, Lee, regarding the IP. It's more like, if it's not already done on your side, maybe for 2024, we know that with the AI Act and the conformity assessment processes that are going to be implemented, some people will need to have access to information regarding, for example, the foundation models that are developed, the weights, the data sets that are used to train the model, and so on. So some information with the transparency requirements, some information has to be shared to everyone. Some other information are going to be shared only with audit companies or conformity assessment bodies. So how are we going to make sure that the intellectual property is preserved while implementing the AI Act and the conformity assessment processes? That would be interesting to know. And also, it's a question, but maybe for later, is it possible to open the models or open the data to a specific geographical area or to specific companies, but not other companies? Is it allowed to do that? Do we already have licenses that make it possible? So that would be also interesting to know, especially if we are opening, for example, the data, the public data, such as the data from the National Archives or for, I don't know, the Museum of France. Maybe we agree to open that to some partner, but not all countries in the world or all stakeholders in the world. So is it doable or not? And Andreas, for you, sorry, I'm too long. You speak about regulation. I was wondering if the output, the deliverables of your work could not be very fruitful within the harmonized standards initiatives that are happening right now, because in the end, if some standards from ISO are harmonized at a European level, most probably these standards are also going to be used by the US, for example. So even if the regulation is not the same, the conformity presumption will be the same. I mean, the process that the companies are going to follow in order to be in conformity with this requirement are going to be the same because the standards are the same. So having an impact on the standards could be the best way to move forward, right? Thank you.
Yeah, let's take the question maybe in order. So the first question was about the sustainability and the questions of evolution. The sustainability issue, remember, basically we are building a tool, evolving it, so when GPAI dies, That's funding fails, of course, but worldwide, everybody will have their solution and are in charge of, paying for it and maintaining. This is what I didn't say. You get the tool for free, but then the cost of using the tool is yours. So the sustainability issue is going to be run like that by the countries. Now, about the question, maybe Lawrence, you can talk about the forum, because I think the answer to the question is the forum that we set up. Can you tell about that?
Yeah, so we have set up a community forum for all the portal operators and also the developers of the portal to actually come in and share with each other the best practices and any improvement that they want to see. They share the code, and then we can roll that back into the portal so that everyone else can benefit. So there is a community forum that we have already formed. And I welcome all the portal operators and the portal operators developers to participate in this forum. This is really the place where you download the portal source code, the governance documentation, the how-to guide, and if necessary, my team will actually help each country stand up the portal at least your first portal, right? After that, you have the experience, you should be able to help the other portals that's coming up in the country.
So multiple portals in all the countries, but a forum to ask questions and share best practices. We need to speed up because we have 3 minutes left.
Yes, I'll just answer really quickly and we can then take it offline. I know Robert wants to chime in and Andreas has to answer. But I think your questions kind of highlight one of the theses of our work and why our group needs to work closely with the data governance group, because we do need to come up with techniques that comply with not only the EU-AI Act, but you look at what came out of the White House with the executive order and NIST leaning in on standards. And I think so we need data governance techniques. How can you protect privacy, but also disclose enough information about the training data that you're providing that transparency? How can you disclose enough information about the data that you can create meaningful ways of accountability? And contracts can help. It's not the silver bullet single solution, but if, when Bertram comes up with the techniques, not that I'm putting you on the spot here, we can then, through business codes of conduct, through contracts, say, you're going to comply with this and create mechanisms so other people in the ecosystem, whether it's governments, whether it's other private actors, can then create enforcement. So I think it all works together. And I think the short answer on limiting access to open source, contracts can help. Contracts, business codes of conduct on what you're going to allow, what you're not going to allow, but building in the technical fences around that and having policymakers be able to weigh in are really important too. So over to you.
So very, very quickly on the questions here. Yes, on the European level, as now we really also get started, we do work together with the JTC 21 group so that there's alignment with the standards and the tools that we can then build. So that is given, yes.
One addition to what Lee said. You asked about some space when we can, in which we can share data. It's allowed. My experience, Polish experience in the talkies with experts here in GPAI and around the world, its simple answer is, of course. We have a very risky buzzwords, data ownership. Data belongs to anybody. This is an error. First, it's only digital copy of existence. Now it's only question how companies, how governments keep the data and block the access. And from that reason, we can build the club environment. People aligned, like-minded people, like-minded companies, governments, and establish, for example, in Africa, trusted but resilient from the outside space in which we can share data on our rules which enable us to disengage from the actual state of the open market. Open is market is other buzzwords for that kind of digital economy. I believe it's possible, but we need to pattern, practical pattern. For example, in European Union, we have a coordinated plan supported to support artificial intelligence strategy. We developed the concept data spaces. It's a bit different. But involving that concept, what I said just some minutes ago, it's possible finally to using the approach RegTech, not regulation, but RegTech, and to deliver some steward who guard the standards, how we can share data inside of that cloud. Yeah.
Thank you to. Okay, go, and then quick we answer and we go and lunch. Yeah,
I understand. Thank you for the wonderful panel. I was wondering, since there was a conversation about soliciting feedback or suggestions for the way you move forward. So, as someone who's currently a master's student in human-centered AI in Dublin, and as someone who's worked as an AI data strategy advisor to multiple startups globally, I've seen, at least in the startup space, there is an incentivization structure that is, focused on just the next, milestone, like, I need to get the seed funding, I need to get, this investor happy, I need to get, that, listing in the Sensex. So I was wondering, if you're looking at innovation and commercialization, these can often be sort of like proxy elements which we don't actually address in the name of business value. So like, okay, this many users accumulated, this many XYZ's money accumulated, but innovation not addressed. So I was wondering, like the way we have carbon credits, we have certain incentivization mechanisms. If we could also address similar things in the innovation ecosystem, say you can actually tell startups, hey, you did this good job. You've proven that you've moved the needle further. So can we also make it an agenda for them to actually want to innovate instead of just showing that they have more people, more money?
Obviously, your question is much larger than what I could do. The SP mind that Lawrence was talking about is actually in our mind at the beginning. We started that in France. In our mind, it was basically an idea where we wanted to have a label for a startup. So we lined up 6 different axes for each axe 5 or 6, or I don't remember how many questions, typically to assess precisely the different questions that a startup should ask themselves. And a lot of them, when we gave them this questionnaire, each of these questions gives a value, and at the end of a day, you have a score, right? And they said that the value was not so much in the final score, it was actually on the question being raised, because they say, oh, right, so we are doing our best. I'm sure we could do a lot better, but let's continue over lunch, okay?
Also,
lunch.
Lunch will go out. Just a point, innovation can't be funded, right? Means unless the innovation can be funded.
And commercialization, that's the point.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.